Welcome, YouTube family. Welcome to another edition of the Kevin Strong Show. And typically, when you think about topics that deal with living paycheck to paycheck, most people think it's people who either lower middle class or just flat broke. This article is about more wealthy Americans are living paycheck to paycheck after inflation surge. So, we're going to talk a little bit about this article. I've known this for a long time. A lot of people have a high income, but they have a high consumption lifestyle to match that high income, which is basically a fancy way of saying you make a lot, but you spend a lot. Most people don't have the internal discipline to live below their means. It's very difficult to see a jar of cookies and you haven't eaten in a while and just eat one or two. Okay. Or as the commercial goes, you can't just eat one Lay's potato chip. But pick your poison. Here's another example before we get into the article. You and your significant other go out and get qualified for a mortgage. The bank comes back and says, hey, I've got great news. You're pre-approved to buy a $500,000 house. How many Americans are going to say, you know what, honey, there's always unexpected emergencies that happen in life. I could have disruption in my income. Maybe your income gets disrupted. We can fall down because of an illness, what have you. Unexpected things happen in your life. But as a result, instead of, going all the way up with that $500,000 house that we qualify for, maybe we should buy something that's only like $250,000 or $300,000. Now that might mean you compromising on a particular area or school. Certainly you don't want to compromise safety or the quality of education if there's kids involved, but there may be a happy medium where you don't necessarily have to buy $500,000 worth of house because the bank says you qualify for $500,000. Whether you're talking about a mortgage or talking about a car, a lot of times it's not the payment that gets you in trouble. It's the maintenance and the associated costs with the payment that throws you into a tailspin. So without further ado, I digress. Let's get into this. I think this is a fascinating article. And that's why I decided to do a short video about it. And as I said, more wealthy Americans are living paycheck to paycheck after inflation surge. So some of the key points about this article: the surging cost of living has caused more Americans to feel financially squeezed. Sorry about that in my background here. Let me turn this off. That's my marketing. Ching ching. Anyway, with inflation still near 40-year highs, even top earners are living paycheck to paycheck, according to one report. Okay, so they're talking about the consumer price index here. We all know it came in. Inflation's at like 9.1%. The consumer price index at 8.3%. These numbers are all cooked, for lack of better purposes. We're not even measuring the consumer price index, the CPI, using the same matrix as we did back in 1970. So inflation is much, much higher than what the government is reporting, in my humble opinion. But let's get down to this article. This says, as of April, 61% of consumers say they are now living paycheck to paycheck. That number, or that percentage, I think is a little bit higher. And here's the one that's really, really shocking. Even top earners are stretched thin. Okay, this report found. Of those earning $250,000 or more, so $250,000 or more, said they live paycheck to paycheck. Now, that statement in itself should just blow you out the water. And there says earning $250,000. I don't know if they're meaning collectively as a couple or as a single wage earner, but pick your poison in either example. That's a crap load of money to be living paycheck to paycheck. And that's when I was saying earlier in the video that some people have a really high income, but a high consumption lifestyle. And that person is just as house broke as the person who's living paycheck to paycheck at $40,000. Because at the end of the day, it's about your disposable income. How much money do you have left over after you pay taxes and after you pay your monthly debt obligations? That determines your quality of life. Okay, it's not the toys that you pay for, is how much money you have left over after you pay for the said toys. But once again, let's go ahead and go a little bit deeper into this article. Earning $250,000 a year is more than 5 times the national median and is clearly high income. I would agree. Okay, the fact that a third of them are living paycheck to paycheck should surprise you. And like I said earlier in this video, this is all about human nature. People putting um, vacations on credit cards, birthdays, weddings, any type of commercialization that has basically they've marketed to the average consumer to say, you need to spend a lot of money on this. I've said this in previous videos, but I'm going to say it again in this one. I used to have this saying I used to tell my mom all the time, and she never really liked it. No matter how much importance you put on a particular event, time is time. And what I meant by that is that there's only 24 hours in the day. That day will come and that day will go. Yeah, you spend $20,000, $30,000 on a wedding, but if you don't have 6 to 9 months of an emergency fund, after all of the bells and whistles and the dancing and the drinking's over with, and then somebody loses their job, all of a sudden you're still on your honeymoon phase, but you've spent more for a wedding than you probably should have. You don't have adequate emergency fund set up, and you're just starting your life with your significant other. Someone's lost a job, and now there's immediate stress on the family. We all know, or if you don't know, finances is probably one of the top 3 reasons why people get divorced. So you need to set yourself up for success, not failure. Getting hyper focused on that one event. I understand it's a big event, more so for the woman than the guy, traditionally speaking. But there has to be some type of happy medium saying, hey, we need to have a good day. We need to have a memorable, once in a lifetime event. But at the same time, we need to make sure that our financial household is strong, no pun intended, well after this wedding day, because we're going to be spending the rest of our lives together. And money is a big stress when it comes to couples. So now the article says these high income wages have an average FICO score of 758, which is considered excellent credit, right? So these folks are making 5 times more than the national average income, okay? They've got a high FICO score, but they're broke. I used to have a radio show in Lakewood, Washington, years and years ago, and I used to come up with this analogy, or not analogy, this pick one or the other. So this is what I used to say. Would you rather have a really high credit score and low income, or really high income and low credit? And in my humble opinion, the answer 9 out of 10 times, if not 10 out of 10, is give me the money, not the credit. Because you can do a lot of things now to improve your credit. It's hard to double your income, or it's hard to earn over 6 digits. That's something that's very, very elusive to the average American. So I digressed. Consumers who are struggling to afford their day-to-day lifestyle tend to rely more on credit cards and carry higher monthly balances, making them financially vulnerable. And that's what this particular survey has said. Once again, high income, high consumption. If you can't pay off your credit card balance in 60 days, you're basically telling yourself a couple of things. One, you can't afford that item or those items that you put on that credit card. And 2, which is probably a bigger problem, you've probably got some financial stress in your household that you need to take some corrective actions. Because if that is the case, there's nothing outside of a necessity that you should be putting on a credit card. Now, I don't advocate putting anything on a credit card, but if you have to, it damn well should be a necessity, not something that you want or how you feel, or I worked hard this year, honey, and we deserve to go on a vacation. Well, what the hell does that mean if you've got $20,000 to $30,000 worth of credit card debt that you're paying back at 20%? Are you really going to go on vacation? Can't you go on vacation in a less expensive way, opposed to doing something that's going to require you to put that money on a credit card that has a high debt? I've seen households of all means fall into this trap. That's why I said earlier, this thing hits all different types of economic levels. Poor, middle class, upper middle class, to the affluent. How many stories have you heard about celebrities, entertainers making millions of dollars and going bankrupt, right? If you can't manage $40,000, guess what? You're probably going to have a hard time managing $400,000. So you have to make sure you do the right thing and leverage yourself up appropriately. There's an old saying in investing is that when you owe the bank $10,000, you got a big problem. When you owe the bank $10 million, this is from an investment standpoint now, the bank has a problem. The reason is, guess what? They're going to work something out with you because they want that $10 million go from a non-performing to a performing asset. That doesn't work when you owe $10,000. So take that for what it's worth. So here's a good thing. It's called 50-20-30 rule. I've heard of this before. With this rule, basically, this is how they want you to allocate your money after taxes. Okay, 50% on needs, 30% on wants, and allocate the remaining 20% to savings and or debt reduction. Now, this is something that's generally okay. I would be a lot more aggressive personally if I was following this, or when I do tell clients about things like this. I would think in terms of the 50-20-30 rules, I would, in terms of wants, I would probably cut that down to 10. Probably 10. That's probably why I'm single. But I digress. But all seriousness though, yeah, 30% wants and then 20% on savings. You've got to pay off debt. Debt is the way. Eradicating debt is your way to financial freedom. You're going to have to basically eat a little crow, change your mindset and go from instant gratification to delayed gratification. Okay. And in the long run, it will pay itself off, but it's very hard to do, especially if you have a significant other who's not on board with that, or you're surrounded with people who don't advocate that type of lifestyle. There's peer pressure that goes well beyond high school. Hell, you could be 60 years old and succumb to peer pressure. So you have to be comfortable with your own financial plan, and more importantly, plan for the unexpected, because we're all going to have to deal with it. Let's see here. Anything else they're talking about here in this article? That's pretty much going to be it. I did want to touch base on this, kind of quickly said, I think you should have an emergency fund. It's going to become increasingly more difficult to pay off debt now. Layoffs are coming. Like I said, I think we're in a recession. I think we are going to have a significant pullback in the housing market. Some markets a little bit harder than others. I know even in the Seattle area, the two main counties, the north part is King County and the south part is Pierce County. They're basically saying of the existing listings that are on the market, almost anywhere from 45 to 50% of them have to come up with some type of price reduction. And we're just starting. Keep in mind, folks, when you hear all of this negative stuff about housing should be pumping up right now because it's July. This is when all the transactions are supposed to be happening. We're getting very, very negative numbers during a period in real estate that real estate numbers should be going up, not down. So a lot of times, unfortunately, that people procrastinate and wait to the 11th hour. Now you may not have that opportunity to get that second or third job to pay off some of this debt that you have to pay back at 20% because people are laying off. A lot of automation is replacing some of these gig jobs, if you will. It's just overall a very, very difficult time to generate income, especially when we're dealing with inflation that we haven't seen in 40 decades. If you're enjoying this type of content, please do me the honor of hitting that like button. Please subscribe, comment, and share because I care. This was the Kevin Strong Show, and I'll see you guys in the next video.